Hey YouTube, in this video we're going to be doing a overview on how to use OBS specifically for streaming. I've got a lot of comments over the course of a year of actually doing weekly live streams every Thursday on this YouTube channel regarding tech related content and sometimes gaming, but mostly tech focused on PC DIY and that sort of thing. So people will occasionally come in and ask questions about how to do streaming because I don't know why they see a tech channel and they see me giving like tech support and helping with troubleshooting, and then they just kind of start asking about how to use OBS. So this video is going to be for those individuals that keep asking about that. So this is going to be an overall guide on how to do streaming with OBS. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're using the correct version of OBS. You want to be using OBS Studio or Open Broadcaster software, not Streamlabs. Do not use Streamlabs OBS. You can add various sources here. You can see I've got some video capture devices, window capture devices, game capture. If you are going to stream gameplay from a game, you want to use game capture. You can see here I've selected Honkai Star Rail, but any game that's running, you can select that with game capture. You do not want to be using window capture or screen capture for the game. Now, if you're going to be streaming a console game, like a PlayStation 5 game, for example, or an Xbox game, you would use a capture card, ideally a 4K capture card like the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K or the 2.1 or the Live Gamer Bolt. I'm actually recording this video using my laptop, my ThinkPad P15V, using the Live Gamer Bolt. You would use game capture. So you'd go down here to the plus, and then you would add game capture, and then you select the game. If you want to do a webcam, then you would do video capture device. And also, if you wanted to capture a console game from a capture card like an AverMedia or Elgato, you would also add that as a video capture device. All right, next we're going to go to the settings tab over here under controls, and we're going to click on stream. Now for stream, it depends on the website, which is the service that you're going to be streaming to. So if you stream on Twitch, then you would select Twitch. If you're going to stream on YouTube, there's different options. So a year ago, YouTube had RTMPS and they had HLS. Now, if you wanted to stream a year ago on YouTube, they only allowed AVC or H.264 as the encoder for RTMPS. So if you wanted to get higher quality, especially if you wanted to stream at 1440p or 4K, you would select, and you'd have to go to show all to see the full list, but you would select YouTube HLS. HLS results in better visual quality at the expense of higher latency for your video viewers. So what that means is if you stream using HLS, and I've actually used HLS extensively for most of the year of me streaming, because it results in much better quality for higher resolution streams. So if you're streaming at 1440p or 4K, HLS is definitely the way to go because it allows you to stream using the HEVC codec. And most people, aspiring streamers, etc., who want to stream at high quality on YouTube, you may not have access to AV1 because you would need to have either an Intel Arc GPU or an AMD Radeon 7000 series GPU, or an NVIDIA RTX 40 series GPU to gain access to AV1. Now, I know Mac is starting to implement those in their M processors, so the upcoming Mac refresh, those are going to have AV1 encoders as well. But if you want to use AV1, YouTube recently rolled out AV1 stream support with RTMPS. So if you want to use AV1, you would select RTMPS. And you can also stream using HEVC with RTMPS. So RTMPS, it's better for real-time interaction with your audience. So for example, if someone in the YouTube chat is asking you a question and you want to respond faster, or you want to see that comment faster, you would use RTMPS. If you're streaming at like 4K and you care more about the image quality and you're okay with responding to comments 7 to 10 seconds after the comment shows up, then HLS is fine for that. And HLS is what I would recommend for those that do not have access to AV1 because HLS gives you access to HEVC. Now, recently, YouTube rolled out HEVC and AV1 support on RTMPS. So RTMPS is going to sort of become the de facto standard at this point because of the changes that were recently rolled out. Now, this is in regards to YouTube streaming, and we'll focus mostly on YouTube streaming because that's the one that has more options for those that are trying to stream. Then you'll either connect your account or you'll put your stream key in there. So after the stream, after you've selected your stream service and the server, and you've connected the account or you put the stream key in, then you want to go to the video tab, because the video tab is going to determine the canvas resolution. So in this case, I'm using 4K, and this is typically dependent on your monitor. So, or the primary display that's going to be showing the game or capturing whatever video footage you want to show the audience. So in this case, I have a base canvas resolution of 4K, that's 2160p, because that is what my primary monitor is using. And then I'm also using an output scaled resolution. Now, this is to save on bandwidth more than anything else, because if I wanted to leave this at 4K, if I set the scaled resolution to the same as the output or the canvas resolution, now if I were to stream, I would actually stream at full 2160p, 60 frames per second. Now that uses a lot of bandwidth, so I don't recommend this unless you are already a well-established channel and you have very high internet upload capacity, like you have a dedicated internet line, maybe a commercial line or something at least 1 gig service, like fiber to the home. You would have to have that as kind of a bare minimum to stream reliably native 4K 60 frames per second. On top of that, you're going to need like a very high-end GPU or high-end CPU to do this, and we'll get into that detail in a little bit. But in general, what I personally do is I use a base canvas resolution of 4K, and I downscale that to 1440p. So when my viewers watch my stream at the source resolution, what they see is 1440p, 60 frames per second. And I think that's a happy medium because it doesn't require too much bandwidth. So you don't have to have an insane upload, and your viewers don't have to have an insane download to be able to watch your stream at the source resolution. So I think this is kind of a good compromise. So that's what I use personally. Next, we want to go to the output tab, and you want to click on advanced. It starts on simple, but we're going to go to advanced. So for the streaming, we want to select the audio codec as FFmpeg AAC. That's pretty standard for audio for, online stream video as an example. And then for the video encoder, here is where a lot of people get confused. This is where I see a lot of comments on my YouTube chat asking questions, and just from the nature of the question, I can tell that they don't understand what they're doing. So we're going to talk about the difference between hardware encoding and software encoding. So the video encoder that you select from this list will determine whether you're doing software encoding, which is also known as CPU-based encoding, or you're going to do hardware encoding, which in 2023 is typically done by the GPU. Now, there are separate devices such as AverMedia. AverMedia used to make the original Live Gamer HD. That capture card had its own hardware encoder for H.264. So if I had that capture card connected here, you would see an option for the AverMedia encoder as well, in addition to all of these. But what we have here is X.264 down here at the bottom. This is CPU encoding. So if you wanted to stream using your CPU, and I only really recommend this if you have an 8-core or higher in terms of core count for streaming off of the CPU. X.264 is software-based 264. It used to be the standard that live streamers would use because hardware-based encoding was nowhere near as good as software back in the day at the same bit rate. So what that means is that if someone was streaming on X.264 at, say, 3,000 kilobits per second or 2,500 kilobits per second, here's kind of the default that it's set. If you wanted to get the same visual quality using hardware-based H.264, you had to go up to like 4,000 kilobits per second. In the early days of Twitch, in the early days of live streaming online, X.264 was the standard because you could get better visual quality at lower bit rate. So that was kind of the thing. And then there are these CPU usage presets where higher equals less. So meaning ultra fast up here is going to use the lowest amount of CPU. And the slower you go, so you can see down here, faster, fast, medium, slower, very slow, etc. The lower down on the list you go, the more CPU intensive it gets. So the kind of the target preset for those that were aspiring streamers or those that already had large channels was to stream at medium preset. Medium preset is the magic word. If you talk to anybody who did CPU-based X264 streaming back in the day, and you mentioned the word medium, that you were able to stream at medium, then they respected you, because that means that you had a good PC that could actually stream at medium, and that means it was a monster CPU. You had to either run either an Intel HEDT X79 or X99, and then when AMD rolled out Ryzen, the Ryzen 8 cores were able to do medium as well. So that's kind of what opened the floodgates when Ryzen came out to allow streaming at this preset, because this preset is insanely hard to run on a lot of CPUs back in the day. So a keyframe interval would be 2 seconds for live stream video, especially for like Twitch TV as an example, and then medium preset, and then you would want your bit rate to be, you know, whatever your upload can support within the maximum limit for your service providers. So whether that be, like, for example, if you have 10 megabit upload max, then you would only want to upload at like 8,000 kilobits per second. So, but anyway, so that's why you'd want to use a better preset like medium, because medium results in a better image quality at lower bit rate. Medium preset at 2500 is going to look way better than a very fast stream at 2500. Now that's CPU streaming, but we're going to focus on more modern methods which use the GPU. So you can see here we've got several options with AMD hardware. See HW, that's hardware. So these are the streaming options from the GPU. So this is the GPU in here is a Radeon RX 7900 XTX, and that GPU gives us access to AV1. So that's why AV1 is a choice here. So we can do AV1, and then we can set that to, you know, whatever the bitrate needs to be. And then again, you want to do 2 seconds. And then you can do the preset quality, whether that be high quality, balance, speed. Now, keep in mind here that if you do high quality and you're trying to do something like 4K, it's going to lag, because, especially if the bitrate's really high, because the encoder can't handle trying to push that much bandwidth, that much bitrate across for 4K resolution. So if you're going to stream at, say, 4K native, then you're going to want to use balance preset. And the reality is you're going to have enough bitrate. So typically for 4K with AV1, you're going to be streaming at like 30,000. Just to give people a realistic example here. AV1 30,002 and balanced, this is good to go for 4K native. Now if we're doing 1440p downscale, we can up this to quality. We can drop this down to 25,000. And that would look really good for people watching the stream, and the profile is just going to be main. These are the settings for AV1. Now, if you want to stream in HEVC, which is what I recommend for those that do not have an AV1 encoder, so for those that are on, for example, an AMD Radeon 6000 series GPU or an NVIDIA RTX 30 series GPU, like an RTX 3060, 3080, or a Radeon 6800 XT, or a 6700 XT, etc., any of those, I highly, highly recommend H.265 if available on the website that you want to stream on. And then YouTube supports HEVC, so this is the best alternative to AV1. And the reality is there's barely any difference, if any noticeable difference, between HEVC and AV1 at the same bit rate. So this is kind of how I would do my own streams if I was using like an Ampere or an RDNA 2 based GPU. Last but not least, if you're on Twitch, then you're Your only real option is going to be H.264 AVC. This is a technology from 2003, so it's very old. So it is very disappointing that Twitch does not have any of the modern encoders available, at least for the hardware. But then you can select, profile high. Main is kind of this is the standard. This is the standard for video, but you can do high. It's going to be a little bit more intensive in terms of the quality. And then the key interval, again, 2, and then, whatever the max bit rate for Twitch allows. So that's the general overview. In terms of audio, you're just going to want to select sample rate 4800 kilohertz. Now, there's a lot of debate between 44.1 versus 48. I personally use 48 because it's becoming the standard for video audio, or audio that is in a video, not like a soundtrack or something that's separate audio by itself. That's still heavily using 44.1. But 48 kilohertz also, if you're using Elgato capture cards, there was a bug years ago where audio could become desynced if you weren't using 48 kilohertz audio. Now, I don't know if that's been resolved. I haven't used Elgato capture cards in years, so I don't know. But in general, I would recommend 48 kilohertz if you want to just choose something. Other than that, really, that's all you really need to get started. It's just going to depend on what your computer can do. I recommend HEVC for those that can't use AV1. Otherwise, you can use AV1 where available. And that's pretty much it. So, hope you guys found this video useful. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.